Bundling home and car insurance with Geico is so easy, your neighbors are probably already doing it. But who? They may drop little hints like,
beautiful day out. Even more beautiful since we saved by bundling our home and car insurance with Geico.
or
Yard work is hard. Much harder than bundling with Geico, which was easy.
or it may be even subtler, like,
Speaking of burgers, we bundled our home and car insurance with Geico and saved a bunch of money.
bundling is easy with Geico. Just ask your neighbors.
And now it's Geico's Motorcycle Rules of the Road. Before you ride, make sure your mirrors are clean and adjusted properly. And if you're going on a group ride, make sure the lead biker knows where they're going.
Ed, quick question. Where are you taking us?
Oh, I have no idea. Well, am I the leader? Because I was following that dude with the red helmet. Where is he?
And the rule to saving on motorcycle insurance is, in 15 minutes, Geico could save you 15% or more.
Hey, and welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea podcast, an adulting advice podcast production. I'm Danny Sheriff, and this is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. Let's dive in. And guys, please remember that I am not a doctor and nothing on this show should be taken as medical advice. Always seek the advice of your physician. Hey everyone, welcome back to the AJ podcast. I'm here with Holly Dunn. It's her second time on the show. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
No worries. So Holly is remind me, registered nutritionist, right?
Yeah, registered nutritionist or nutritional therapy practitioner,
Yes.
we call them. Yeah, either or both. Based in London.
Awesome.
Yeah, based across the pond.
Perfect. I always have to double check everyone's acronyms. Never remember them. Cool. Well, I love having Holly on the show. I'm always sending girls her way just because she works with people with HA so well one-on-one. Actually, you should tell people a little bit about what you do before we dive in.
Yeah, sure. So my practice very much started in the sort of women's health space, but moved quite quickly into HA as a result of, my own experience, my own history with HA, overtraining, high levels of stress, and a kind of a bit of a genetic predisposition to sort of high stress, especially inability to break down dopamine and adrenaline. So that's where my interest in HA and especially the stress component of it is really, really strong. So I work with women predominantly one-to-one. I don't do a lot of group work at this stage to help them to sort of really, really uncover what are the mediators, what are the drivers, what's going on, at that kind of fundamental functional level. So I do pretty much always do testing with my ladies, always, and we uncover some of the drivers of what's going on and work with them through on the nutrition side of stuff, the lifestyle side of stuff, some of the emotional side of stuff as well. Especially where there's kind of that history of orthorexia as well, which is something I experienced too. So very much a kind of, I think like most NTPs and functional medicine practitioners, quite a rounded, holistic kind of approach to getting people back into balance and back to where they want to be.
Yeah, I love it. I was excited by our chat a few weeks ago, months ago. It was a good one. And it was really popular too. I think a lot of people really resonated with everything that you had to say. And, it's important to me that we keep talking about more than just eating more calories and exercising less. And we talk about some of the more nuanced things, because we were talking just before we hit record that there's just more to it.
Often there is, yeah. And I was just saying to you, wasn't I, that I'm getting more and more women coming to me at the moment. Just, they've really, really worked hard on their exercise and their food. And, if we look at their kind of body composition, they're actually in a really, really good place. So you wouldn't look at this person and they don't feel in themselves that they should have HA. And I think it's those people that we really need to look and actually really understand what's going on. And actually, one lady I'm just working with, just about to start working with, we've just run her test results, and she's actually got a medical condition so it's not actually HA, and that's really important. But otherwise we wouldn't know that unless we'd looked at the blood tests in particular. And another lady who recently, who she, when we think about that body composition, that BMI, she's put on so much weight, and she's really struggling with that. But there's a lot more going on for her, that actually if she just followed the kind of just eat more and rest, it wouldn't have been enough just for her to get her back, back on track. So I'm not saying, I think food and the exercise are 100%, and pretty much 80% of the puzzle. But yeah, the other factors involved are really important to me to dig deeper into as well.
Yeah. It definitely took a bit of extra tinkering for me. That's what I like, being able to get some of the, I've sent like a handful of girls over to you, and I love it because we just get that confirmation of what's going on. It's really helpful, because sometimes I'm talking with women, they've been like, I've been trying this for ages, I've been eating more and resting more, and it's like it's not happening. And patience is definitely a big part of it, but but you also have to like respect that asking people to be patient is really tough. And that, I mean, there absolutely just could be some more to it. So why not find out the answer?
And that's really true as well. I think for a lot of, for some women, genetically, metabolically, it is just going to take longer for them to get their period back. No question. Even if they're following all of the right steps, it's just going to take longer. But I guess it's that small percentage of women who, there is something missing. There's just a piece in the jigsaw puzzle that's not been, some need that's not been met, that just needs to be met for the other things to click into place. And I think that's where, that's really where I'm honing in at the moment with a lot of
that's something that people who are kind of trained, or those of us who are now are at least experienced enough experienced enough to identify like what we're looking for here in someone who's like textbook HA, this is what's going on for you and it's going to be great. And people who there's more investigation needed. And I feel like that's an episode for another day of like, okay, well, how do you know when you have been patient enough and it looks like there's something else going on? And then you should go and get things checked out.
Yeah, like absolutely. There's so much scope for these conversations, Danny. I think we should just do our own series.
I know. That works for me. People would love it. We can do that. Well, we're starting it off with actually a conversation about alcohol. So I have had this question a couple of times, not a whole lot, but I think it's one of those ones that people are wondering about. There's a thing of like, well, it's kind of associated with relaxation, so that's a good thing, and it's high in calories, so that's a good thing, but then like it's alcohol, so that can't be a good thing. So we're just gonna dive into that today, and Holly has actually done quite a bit of preparation, I think, which is exciting. So I have some great questions to make sure that we to make sure that we get all of the answers in if we possibly can. So what made you, because you reached out to me about like, I want to talk about alcohol. So what prompted this for you?
So I think I heard a really interesting conversation that you had a few months ago. And, the overarching kind of response to, is alcohol a good thing? And I get asked this question a lot, is it okay to drink with HA? Can I drink if I'm trying to get my period back? Will having a few drinks throw off my cycle? And this is for women who have their cycle back, right? And I was listening to it and I heard the response, and I've heard the response to this question, and something in me clicked, and I thought, I think there's quite a lot actually here that needs to be researched properly. And lo and behold, it's important for me as a clinician, as a registered nutritionist, to actually stay on top of research in areas that I'm not familiar with. And looking at it, there's no wonder that I wasn't feeling overly happy with what I expected to see in research, what I was hearing, because there isn't a lot. There's pretty much no research on alcohol and HA. Obviously, there's not a lot of research on clinical research into HA and certain aspects of it. So I kind of feel like it's really important to give women the right information. And to help them navigate this question, because alcohol is something that we want to enjoy, and I think that there's definitely a really strong argument for having alcohol in HA, so we'll definitely want to touch on that. But then there are some other kind of clinical considerations in HA that where I think the alcohol question needs to be just fully elucidated, explored, so that women understand what's happening to their bodies when they're drinking alcohol. And when, if they know that they have a sort of an imbalance, whether or not that's a thyroid issue, an adrenal issue, a gut issue, then they know, when they might want to steer clear of alcohol. And I just think it became very clear to me that this was something that needs to be researched, and I can't find anything on it at all. There's no one else.
It became clear. Yeah. It became clear when you started looking for the information.
Well,
and couldn't find it.
Yeah, well, from looking at the kind of body of evidence that we have for alcohol in the menstrual cycle in general, the evidence is conflicting, and it's also really limited. So actually, there's a significant lack of research investigating alcohol use in women in general. And up until about 2015, only 13 empirical papers, which are basically practical interventional studies, had considered the menstrual cycle in relation to alcohol consumption in women. And when it comes to HA specifically, and populations of women with HA, we're yet to see any high quality evidence on the subject. Some studies have found a relationship between alcohol consumption and cycle irregularities, so including missing periods and amenorrhea, irregular cycles, and anovulation, so when you don't ovulate. But generally, this is only when we're drinking alcohol chronically and at quite high doses. So we're drinking a lot of alcohol. Whereas, and this isn't many studies at all, Danny. I mean, this is less than 20 studies. Other studies, and this is really interesting, have showed that moderate drinking causes no significant change in menstrual cycle function. And actually one study in 2014 showed that people who drank no alcohol at all had more cycle irregularities. I thought that was really, really interesting. So I guess there's some evidence around the menstrual cycle and alcohol, but it's not enough for us really to sort of grab hold of and give that kind of sort of give an answer with confidence. So I think that's kind of where we are with the evidence, but I think there's a lot more when it comes to HA. Alcohol has numerous effects on our biochemistry, and we need to put that into the context of what's actually going on in HA, if that makes sense. I think I'm just rambling. I'm not sure it is making sense. But.
No, it does. And I'm wondering if the studies that kind of showed people that don't drink alcohol have irregularities and have more irregularities and just those types of things, if they're self-reported information, and if that, if the healthy user bias comes into any of the studies, and what other correlations the people that don't drink alcohol have with their life. Because my immediate thought is a lot of the girls listening, many of them probably actually don't drink alcohol, already didn't, because it's a unhealthy food, and there's a lot of people with a fear of that. I feel like that's maybe broad, a bit of a stretch, but my mind immediately went to well, maybe they don't drink alcohol and there's a lot of other things that they don't do.
That is, you've hit the nail on the head there, definitely. I think there's a correlative relationship that's not a causative one, absolutely, and there are going to be other factors in those studies which is why I don't feel comfortable relying on them. But it's really interesting that you said that, because it's probably worth mentioning that most clients I work with come to see me and they're either not drinking at all, or they're not drinking very much. So their drinking is neither here nor there. And part of what drives that is often that whether consciously or subconsciously, these individuals, these women, are trying to do everything right, aren't they, to regain their period, or that maybe it's just simply an extension of that healthy lifestyle that often leads to HA in the first place. And the pursuit of that. Yeah, it is. It is certainly. It's a really interesting when we think about HA and that type of person often that we're looking at, not always, but often, that removal of certain types of foods, of certain types of drinks and behaviors that are perceived to be unhealthy. That's what we're seeing in HA. So it does raise a really interesting question around, is alcohol a good thing for these women? And I think that's good. Yeah.
Or is it a symbol of like a social life that is of health? I don't know. We'll see. Let's dive in and see what else we can uncover in this conversation. Cool. So alcohol and the typical HA character. We actually coincidentally just covered that. You had it as one of your notes, but was there more to it that you wanted to share?
I think essentially, a lot of the time from a behavioral point of view, that's, this sort of health conscious, not through any, we're not necessarily talking about orthorexia here, but we're just talking about a very health invested woman. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all, but it does often lead to abstention from certain kinds of foods, or too much food, or alcohol, or that, this need to not be idle or lazy, which I had in a bucket loads. I just feel guilty for lying in bed in the morning. And from a behavioral point of view, those kinds of behaviors, that's not what we're necessarily trying to change, because I don't believe we should be trying to change people here, but trying to challenge and help with these women to appreciate a new and a better way of living that supports their health. And for most people, a little bit of alcohol is often a part of that, because rightly or not, it's part of our social existence, and it tastes pretty good as well. I don't know about you, but I do like a glass of wine. So helping clients and each other to understand what healthy really is. It's not an image, it's not a number on a scale, it's not an absence of certain foods, drinks, including alcohol, or eating as clean as possible, but it's a state of mind, and it's an ability to be comfortable within your body and to enjoy life to its fullest, physically, but also socially and culturally. And of relevance to this point is the fact is how alcohol actually works. And one of the ways that alcohol works is by inhibiting parts of our central nervous system. So it helps to stimulate GABA receptors. So this is an amazing neurotransmitter. It's called GABA aminobutyric acid. It's a mouthful. And this neurotransmitter actually dampens brain activity. So it's thought to be one of the reasons why alcohol produces that immediate anti-anxiety effect. And it gives us that temporary sense of confidence and feeling of well-being and at ease, in ourselves. So if one or two drinks helps you to feel more comfortable socially and gives you a sense of well-being, then absolutely, I think that this is a really, really strong argument for enjoying alcohol as part of a balanced and healthy lifestyle for women with HA in particular. A little bit of what you fancy goes a long way. Yeah.
I assume in that you said that you heard us mention it on a podcast at one point. I assume it was like a Q&A or something. That's coming to mind. But
I think so. I think that, and I think the answer was very much a kind of a response to what I've just said. It was that absolutely.
Yeah, I feel like that's.
Yeah.
Like I don't know a whole lot. We don't know a whole lot about it. If it's making you feel better and having if a better lifestyle is correlating out of a glass of wine every now and then, like I wouldn't look twice at it. Absolutely. Other situations might be different. And like when we talk to our audience, I might be making an assumption here, and I'm so open for people to like DM me and tell me their experience or what it's like for them. But the assumption I'm making here is most women with HA who are struggling and trying to get their period back are concerned about alcohol and not drinking that much of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's why that answer feels
good
Yeah,
about.
and exactly. And we're not it's not as if we're trying to push women to drink alcohol. That's not like that's really irresponsible. And
No.
there's also a very dark side to alcohol, which we're going to look at as well, hopefully. But I think, we're not trying to push women to drink alcohol. That's not, I don't think either of you are trying to give that message at all.
No.
Because, on the on the flip side to that, a constant supply of alcohol is actually going to downregulate those receptors that I've just spoken about, for example, and that can lead to anxiety. But also, we don't want alcohol to be used as another crutch or a coping mechanism, in the same way as a lot of ladies with HA, and certainly myself, I used to use exercise and food restriction for that purpose. That was a coping mechanism. So we don't want that to encourage that at all, especially given that extremes in behaviors may be more likely in a woman with HA. And if you throw alcohol into the mix, that could be a bit problematic as well. So I think definitely we're taking a pinch of salt with everything that I'm saying and everything you're saying. And any piece of research that we do, we have to take this massive pinch of salt and just be like, let's just contextualize this in terms of who are you as a person, what do we know about you and your character, and what's driving your behaviors right now, and also what's going on clinically with you. And that clinical piece is really important. And I just felt that was the part that was missing, is just we just need to be aware of what actually is happening clinically in HA, and where alcohol may not be the right thing to sort of, to be encouraging. So, but yeah, there's a strong argument for it, for enjoying light to moderate drinking, for sure.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Okay, cool. So I want to know a little bit more about, well, were there any other potential long-term health benefits?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Is there a good side?
So this is interesting, actually, because okay, this is really interesting. So up until, I find this interesting, guys, I'm really sorry if you don't. Okay, up until relatively recently, the published health benefits of regular light to moderate drinking, so moderate drinking, have shown that it may help to protect from cardiovascular disease, lower the risk of dementia and cognitive decline, and also osteoporosis. Now that's really interesting because these are the three kind of proclaimed health issues that women who have HA for long periods of time, so for years, may be more at risk of in the future. But the vast majority of research supporting those health benefits, again coming back to the kind of quality of the evidence that we were talking about before, is relying on epidemiological studies. And those studies themselves are limited, right? Because again, they're inferring a trend, but there's no causative link. So, there's no direct link we can draw between alcohol and those kinds of beneficial or the benefits of those outcomes.
Any studies based on like the long-term effects of something someone's doing in their lifestyle is very challenging. Yeah,
really, really hard to do. And we cannot look at those as causative. We have to look at them as contextual, and it's really, really difficult.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
And a massive caveat to all of that is that the new guidelines around alcohol, those were published in 2016. I'm pretty sure, so in the UK, but also in any sort of Western world, showed that there's actually no medically safe limit for alcohol at all. So we have actually, we have to rethink really carefully about the old saying of a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of moderate drinking is protective, may not be the case. So we've got to be careful around those guidelines as well.
Just popping in here to let you know that today, the 14th of April Central Time, so the 15th of April down in Australia and New Zealand, is the last day to join the HA Society. We are closing today, so I just want to make sure you get in before the doors shut. This is the first and potentially only time, I'm not 100% sure, still tossing it up, that I'll be doing the 14-day free trial for you to come in. I just want you to come in and see that it's exactly what you're looking for, because we have developed a community like unlike any other community in the HA space, that allows women to come together and meet face to face multiple times a week and connect on the real issues here around body image, around understanding HA, around understanding why you have it and how to take the next step and how to make sure you don't just get a period back, but you get a nice, healthy, juicy, long period, and that you maintain that period forever. We basically are hoping that you will graduate from the HA Society with a full understanding of body literacy and how to take care of yourself going forward. That's our mission there. So when you come in, you'll be able to sign up for the next community call. You'll be able to chat with me in the DMs, tell me your whole life story, whatever you want to do, and really start feeling connected and start gaining clarity on what is going on with you and your body. That's our whole goal there inside of the group. So please join us before I close the doors. I have to close the doors each month so that I can focus on the actual members. So that's why we're not open all of the time, because it's crazy town if you're open all the time. So come on in. Closes at 5 p.m. Central today. You get 14 days for free, so there's absolutely nothing to lose. You can cancel anytime. It's month to month, all that good stuff. So I've set it up exactly for you, with you in mind. I can't wait to see you in there. Come and check it out. thehasociety.com. That's thehasociety.com, or you can get to the link inside of the show notes. See you soon. Yeah. Cool. Random side question. With the links to helping with cardiovascular and endometriosis, I think you said, are they explaining what is happening that's beneficial?
So it's cardiovascular disease, it's cognitive issues, cognitive decline, dementia, and osteoporosis. If I said endometriosis, if I said endometriosis, I'm sorry, I meant
no. I just get my osises mixed up.
So there's the studies that are inferring a trend. There's been they themselves will hypothesize that it could be as a result of, so especially in red wine, the resveratrol content. Now resveratrol is an antioxidant, but red wine has been shown to have other beneficial properties. So it's got things like catechins and anthocyanins and resveratrol, and these are quite powerful antioxidants that, resveratrol can cross the blood-brain barrier, so it can actually enter the brain. It may protect nerve cells, but certainly in cardiovascular disease, which is associated with kind of oxidative stress within the blood vessels, we think that resveratrol is probably one of the properties within wine. Red wine really only, actually, I've got to just say that.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Benefit, yeah. Yeah, it's not.
I think everyone's heard that. As soon as that research went out, every magazine was like, "Red wine's great."
Yeah. It's not in vodka for sure. I don't think you'd find resveratrol in vodka, which is a shame.
Yeah, I almost feel like when we're talking about the benefits, we're almost definitely talking about wine.
Yes, it's usually red wine as well. Yeah, I probably would mention that. That's where we find the highest content.
Yeah. Good point.
There are some other reasons as well. There have been some studies in women that have shown an improved insulin sensitivity. So again, that could be related to the metabolic disease or the metabolic protection or the cardiovascular stuff. But again, I'm not really sure, because when we look at some of the stuff that alcohol actually does to the body, it does dysregulate blood sugar. So the kind of insulin sensitizing effects, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I think there's a lot of conflicting research on that. Personally, I'm not sure. I believe I can see that in practice.
Okay. Cool. Well, alcohol and clinical considerations in HA. So when drinking is best avoided, so the non-health benefits.
Yeah, the dark side. Okay, so I guess with this one, it's just being cautious and considerate of what's going on with you clinically. So you may not know this, you may not have I, your GP may or may not be giving you this kind of data. You may need to work with a practitioner to actually get this kind of data, or you may kind of just have a sense of this yourself. So the three main things, and there are lots, but I'm just going to choose three things because, I don't want to bite bore all of you guys to death with all of this stuff. The three most important things I think are around alcohol's effects on brain chemistry and stress response, which is really significant in HA. Gut health as well, and also sleep. And those are probably going to be the three things I would talk about. There are a few other things as well. There's metabolism. There is things like the diuretic effect of alcohol, all kinds of other stuff. But I think the brain chemistry and the stress response is probably the biggest
I know
one.
it's weird, but I'm actually curious about. Okay, I don't know why. I do know why. I'm asking for a friend. Like literally, though. It's not. I am asking for a friend. What are the digestive issues to do with alcohol?
Okay. Yeah, so we love the gut. So basically, alcohol does all sorts of crap things in the body. It really does. One of the things it does is it damages the cells of the stomach lining and the gastrointestinal lining. Okay, and that lining is what facilitates the body's absorption of the nutrients from foods. So that's one of the things, right? This is really significant in HA because, especially if there's been a history of undernourishment, whether consciously or involuntarily, and this can happen completely involuntarily. So I'm not passing any judgment at all. As someone with a history of orthorexia, please don't. I'm not saying that everyone has had an eating issue. But this can commonly cause atrophy, which is like the shrinking of the gut lining. Okay, so it just shrinks. It's just not as robust, just because we don't have the fuel, we don't have the nutrients to build that lining. And this can lead to things like reduced digestive capacity. So we're just not producing enough pancreatic enzymes. We're not producing enough bile. We're not producing enough hydrochloric acid, just because all of those little glands and the lining is just compromised. So that can be a bit of an issue. We're also in HA, if that lining is compromised, that can make the lining of the gut susceptible to trauma. We can actually see it sometimes on gut tests. We can see, occult blood in the stool, tiny speckles of blood in the stool, which is a sign that lining is a little bit, struggling a little bit. And bacterial imbalance as well, which we call dysbiosis. Now, a lot of the good bacteria in the gut actually live in the gut lining. So some of the strains like Akkermansia, for example, it likes to live in the lining of the gut. So when that's been sort of degraded, then, we miss out on the benefits of our gut bacteria as well. And all these things, they can affect the brain, they can affect the metabolism, they can affect all kinds of things. So it's a real web of all kinds of stuff that can happen. And then you throw alcohol into that as well. And alcohol is going to mess with the lining. It's going to directly damage the gut bacteria, and it can interfere with the transportation of nutrients, and it can actually deplete our bodies of vitamins and minerals as well. So things like B vitamins and zinc and iron and calcium, and these can lead to other complications like anemia. So there's all sorts of reasons why alcohol might be problematic. But if you, for example, to bring this to life for you, if you've got a slow digestive system, if you suffer from constipation, if you get really bloated, you're eating foods and you're feeling really uncomfortable and bloated, maybe there's not the digestive capacity is compromised. If you're feeling uncomfortable, if you've got a lot of flatulence, if there are some of these kinds of symptoms alongside brain symptoms as well, you're feeling moody and low, then certainly don't try not to drink too much. No more than 2 drinks per sitting, 2 standard units per sitting, and I'd probably advise you not to have more than 5 standard units a week. You really just don't want to exacerbate those symptoms whilst your body's in a state of repair. So I think that's probably a big one. I love talking about the gut. We could go on with that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I had a feeling that was an important question. It's like it's another one of the asterisks of like, and if this is something that you struggle with, alcohol is probably not valuable right now.
Yeah, it might just be not valuable right now. And I think that's really sensible and responsible. That's the responsible approach, right? Because as soon as things are starting to work properly again, then we kind of want you to enjoy it, and we want you to enjoy it as part of your balanced lifestyle. But if things are really struggling from that, certainly from a gut point of view, it's not going to help. And that's where I personally would take that approach. I'd just be like, look, if it's not really bothering you not having alcohol anyway, for most women it isn't, then let's just avoid it and let's work on the gut for 6 weeks, and then let's just see where we are.
Yeah. I just keep coming back to this thing of like, if everything's functioning healthy, you're looking good, you're feeling good, and you're saying no to alcohol for a reason that if you look inside, why you're saying no. Like that's almost the place to reevaluate.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Danny.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Okay, because I cut you off with that. I detoured you. Was there other
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to
research information about it?
Yeah, do you want me? I guess I may as well give you some of the other stuff around this. I think the second, probably the next most important one, is the effect on the brain chemistry and the stress response. Now we know stress is like, if we had 3 major things, we've got the kind of the food intake and the exercise and the stress. Okay, there's other things as well. There's body fat percentage, body composition, lots of other things that come into this. But let's say stress is a major factor. So what we do know about alcohol consumption is long-term consumption of alcohol will affect the brain function in so many different ways. So I'm going to try and keep this nice and streamlined for you. It will affect the hippocampus. This is an area in the brain that's responsible for learning and memory, but it also regulates the stress response system. So it also regulates what we call the HPA axis, which is one arm of our hormone system. And this can be significant, as often what we're seeing, especially in those that have really nailed their food and their exercise, but they're still struggling to regain their period, is that the stress response system, it can be hyperactive, it can be underactive, it can be somehow misaligned. And that's important. This is where I'm a big fan of Dutch testing, not for the sex hormones, but for the adrenal metabolism and the neurotransmitters, because I really want to see what is going on there. And then when it comes to stress, alcohol also raises cortisol. It's the other way it works is it disrupts blood sugar balance and it raises cortisol. And if we've got an increase in cortisol circulating around the body when we're trying to get our period back unnecessarily, it's just probably not the best. It's probably not the best thing to choose. Despite the impact on the brain, on the GABA receptors, we've got that increase in cortisol.
Do you know if it's because the alcohol, and I assume we're mostly talking about things other than red wine when we talk about the stress response, but I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
Yeah.
And is it more because of the reaction it's causing in our brain, or is it because like alcohol is hard to digest and is bad for us?
So I wouldn't say red wine is any different in this respect. The only difference with red wine is it has beneficial properties in it, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still alcohol, it's still ethanol. So it's still going to have all of these effects that I'm talking about as well. But the effects of alcohol are numerous. Okay, so if you were drinking a little bit of alcohol every day, for example, you're definitely going to notice that change in the hippocampus. And were you to have a bit of a binge night, were you to go out and have more than 5 drinks and wake up in the morning, we get that sort of temporary amnesia. We get that temporary sort of sense, I can't remember what happened yesterday. But that's part of what's happening at the level of the brain and the hippocampus, and it's the same part that controls the stress response. And when that gets dysregulated, then the adrenal output of cortisol can go up just because it's out of balance. But also, one of the other ways that alcohol works is it disrupts blood sugar balance. So blood sugar can go a bit doolally. It can go up, it can go down. And as soon as we get that low, in the same way as if we were going to have a really, really sugary meal, we'd get a kind of a temporary spike in insulin and and blood sugar, which would then lead to a sharp fall in blood sugar, which is going to cause an increase in cortisol. So there are kind of numerous ways in which that can happen, and can cause issues.
Yeah. And that made me think of this, we'll see how you go, surprise bonus question.
Yeah, go for it.
When I'm working with my women who are currently cycling, well, I have some girls charting their cycles without their period. I just feel they're at a point now where it could be valuable information for us. And girls who are charting their cycles, waiting for their second, third, fourth, or trying to get pregnant, that kind of thing. So they are typically having a cycle. And every single time, and everyone in the charting world knows this, when you drink alcohol, you see a significant spike in your basal body temperature. So you become hotter. And is that a result of all of that mechanisms that you just went through?
I think that's different. I definitely would say that's different. That could be a result of the effects of alcohol on hormones and at the level of the brain. So our hypothalamus is also responsible for managing our temperature, right? So it will take in external cues. It'll understand sort of what's the climate that we're currently sitting in, and that can certainly get dysregulated when we're drinking alcohol. We know this from I think there's been studies of men out in the cold, out in the Arctic isn't a good example. I think it's the Arctic, but it's somewhere really, really cold, and they're drinking alcohol. And it's not that their body is not getting cold, but it's that they are more susceptible to hypothermia because they're not registering that they're cold, because more of the body, what's actually happening is more of the blood flow is going to the extremities and away from the core. So we're actually perceiving that we're feeling much hotter. That's why your skin may flush and you may feel warmer, but actually your core body temperature is dropping. So it's actually quite dangerous from that perspective. The exact kind of biomechanism behind that, I'm not familiar with. I'm not entirely sure what is what hormone it is, or what the actual link is between that brain and that reception, and why the blood flow is sort of getting losing my words. Why the blood flow is getting diverted to the extremities as opposed to the core body temperature.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So what I want to do, unless you have any interesting facts that you want to insert before we get to this last part.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of sum it all up, right? So I'm going to be an HAer, and I'm going to ask you this question about whether I should drink alcohol, and you're going to give me the answer knowing nothing about me as a person.
Okay.
Or like my situation.
Okay.
So,
go for it.
Hey Holly, question for you. I have HA. I've had it for like 6 months, I think, about that. And I want to drink alcohol, but I'm not really sure if I should, because getting my period back is my priority. What do you think?
Okay. Well, that's really interesting, Danny. And I would say that it's probably really difficult for me to give you, and I'm being serious here, but it's probably really difficult for me to give you the best answer without knowing more about what is going on for you clinically. So, what's going on for you in terms of your adrenal health and your gut health and other things like that. And what the key components are that are driving your particular HA. What's keeping you in this place? What's preventing recovery for you right now? I think I need to understand a little bit more about you as a person, and what motivates you, what's holding you back, and really find out a little bit more about you before I can actually tell you whether or not I think alcohol should be part of your weekly kind of life plan, if that makes sense. And also what kind of alcohol you might drink and how much and when.
Yeah, exactly. Like everything, it depends. Well, if someone listening doesn't necessarily want to, it's not a big deal to them, right? They're just curious. Okay. They don't really necessarily want to spend the time getting the testing done, being
Yeah.
interviewed on this kind of thing, would you say it's, for their own self-assessment purposes, what questions could they ask themselves?
I would say, do they avoid? I would want to know if they avoid alcohol for social reasons. Are they avoiding alcohol anyway? What happens when they drink alcohol? Do they have any particular symptoms related to alcohol? Does it, does it make them feel low? I mean, one of the things that we know we didn't really touch on was the impact of alcohol and serotonin levels in the brain that can make us feel really low. And often with HA, there's low mood anyway as a result of low estrogen and low low serotonin. So I want to know, exactly how it is affecting them. For the most part, though, I would say to this person that having a few drinks over a holiday or in moderation at any other time probably won't affect your cycle, and it probably won't affect how quickly you get your cycle back. I would also tell them that we do know that chronic excessive drinking can cause cycle irregularities and amenorrhea, because we do have research to support that. But occasional drinking for somebody with HA, so someone like you with your personality type, is probably a good thing. And in fact, if you've had HA for a while, we might go as far as to say, enjoying the occasional glass of wine is beneficial to you on many different levels. But I would caveat that by saying that for any woman, I would avoid, and this is any woman, this is going for any cycling woman or any non-cycling woman, I would avoid more than 2 standard units per sitting. I just would, because the other facts that we didn't even touch on what happens to your cycle. Sorry, what some of the impacts of alcohol can be in a woman who is cycling. So that's what I would say. And I also I'd say all of us, all women, we should probably be having no more than 5 units of alcohol per week, but that's just based on my research and what I believe. But I would encourage you to enjoy it, because it's part of it's part of your life. It's part of, most of our social existence. So that would be what I would say without knowing anything about the clinical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. The reality is most people are not going to get the clinical testing done. Those of you who are interested,
Yeah.
Holly is your girl. So I'm going to put her...
No, there are others. There are many other practitioners as well, I think, who do this. So I think I don't want to just, we don't want to, because I would say, but I certainly can help you if that's what you want. But I think that a lot of women can do this on their own, and I don't want to I never ever want to disempower any woman by leading her to believe that she needs to work with any practitioner. I think if you're struggling for a long time and you need that support there, and there's something going on, working with someone, and that includes someone like Danny and a health coach, that can just accelerate the process for you. But yeah, I never want. I'm not in the business of disempowering women around.
I love and appreciate very much that you just said that. That's so true. Like, the majority of us have within ourselves the ability to get this work done.
Yeah.
It's great that you have access to practitioners to help you find answers that otherwise maybe you couldn't, or be unbiased in your discoveries. I think that's a big one, just like an unbiased third party helping you see things from a perspective you can't. But at the end of the day, like, if this is something that if solving HA is something that you want to do on your own, or is that's what you can afford to do, is to do it on your own, we believe in you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I believe that too. I really, really do. And you only have to get on the right road, really. And that's what I love doing, is giving women all of the education. I love giving them all of the why, all of the this is what's happening in the body. This is why this nutrient is effective. This is why eating this way is effective. This is why this kind of lifestyle practice is helpful for you, not someone else. But with a view to, I don't want women to be dependent on me. I don't want that. I want them to go away and have that life I want them to have everything that they need for their life, you know? So I think it's about the empowerment game, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I do stand by what I've said about, you can do this on your own. You can do it. There's quite a lot of information out there, but you do have to find the right information. And sadly, I do think there's quite a lot of misinformation out there, which is why I love this podcast, because you're bringing in a lot of good voices, you're bringing in a lot of expertise, and that's really, really important. I think there are a lot of people getting on the HA bandwagon, if I may say that, and regurgitating information that might not be correct. So that's why I'm passionate about getting real research, real information out there.
Yeah. Well, I love that there are people like you in the space doing what you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to put links to all of Holly, where you can go and find her, where you can book a chat. I believe she does a free call if that's something that you wanted to do, and see if you guys are a fit working together, or if you got this on your own.
Totally cool.
So all of that's going to be in the show notes, but verbally, do you want to share where people can find you?
Yeah, sure. So probably if you want to book a call, I know Danny will share a link in the show notes. You can find some information on my website. That's probably a good place to start as well. That's hollydunn.co.uk. And yeah, I'm coming back to Instagram. I have had a little bit of a break this year, just because I've been quite busy in clinic and on the kind of on multiple sort of aspects of my business. But I will be coming back to Instagram, and I will share some stuff. I might actually write this up into a blog, actually, the alcohol stuff. Nice. But yeah, you'll find me there soon.
Shoot me the blog so I can share it with everyone.
Yeah, I will. I will write this up into a blog, so it'll be helpful.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and Holly. And I can't wait to see you guys soon. If you do want Holly to come on, talk about more topics, come and let me know. I want to know that you want that. So somewhere on the internet, you can find me and tell me that, and also what subjects that you might be interested in hearing about.
Yeah, I'd love to know too.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Danny.
It's just, you tell me what to do. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much, because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
Almost 90% of women have cellulite. And guess what? It's not their fault. We don't choose cellulite, but we can choose a different way to treat it. Meet Quo, collagenase Clostridium histolyticum, AAES, the first and only FDA-approved prescription injectable for moderate to severe cellulite in the buttocks of adult women. This non-surgical treatment is injected by an aesthetic specialist in 10 minutes or less. Individual results may vary. Do not receive if you are allergic to any collagenase or ingredients in Quo, or have an infection at the treatment site. May cause serious side effects, allergic reactions including anaphylaxis, and injection site bruising. Seek medical help right away for any signs of allergic hypersensitivity. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions if you have a bleeding condition or take medicine that prevents clotting. Most common side effects include bruising, pain, hardness, itching, redness, discoloration, swelling, and warmth at the injection site. Ask your doctor about all possible side effects and for product information. If you're ready to get to the bottom of your cellulite, learn more and find a specialist at quo.com.